Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into a powerful and honestly a very human idea: why staying silent when you know you should speak can be incredibly dangerous, and how finding your voice can literally change the world around you.
Okay, let's start with a question I think every single one of us can relate to. You know that moment, that little pause where you're debating in your head, should I say something? Is it worth it? We've all been there. But what we're about to see is that those small moments of silence can have consequences that are way bigger than we ever imagined.
Let's just start with a hard number. Get this: a study from VitalSmarts found that in the workplace, our silence costs companies an average of $7,500 per employee per year. That's the cost of all the little mistakes that go unfixed, the bad ideas that no one challenges, and the conflicts that just bubble away under the surface. It really adds up. But the cost isn't just about dollars and cents. When the stakes get really high, when we're talking about human lives or the health of our planet, silence can be absolutely catastrophic. So let's look at 4 true stories where just one person speaking up could have changed everything.
Our first stop is January 28, 1986, a freezing cold morning. The launch of the Space Shuttle Challenger was supposed to be this incredible moment of pride, but instead, it became a day that scarred the space program forever.
And here's the absolute tragedy of it all. This wasn't some random out-of-the-blue failure. The problem was known. The engineers who built the rocket boosters were sounding the alarm. They were deeply concerned that a critical part, these little rubber seals called O-rings, would fail in the freezing weather.
And this timeline just lays it out so clearly. It's a devastatingly simple path. The engineers warned everyone, but under huge pressure from NASA to stick to the schedule, their concerns were argued away, they were downplayed, and ultimately, they were silenced. The result? A catastrophic explosion just 73 seconds after liftoff, and the loss of 7 astronauts.
Now, this pattern of silence under pressure isn't just something that happens in huge government projects. Let's jump ahead to 2015, to the corporate world. Volkswagen, right? A company famous for its engineering, got caught in a massive deception we now call Dieselgate. $30 billion. That's the scale of the fines the company eventually had to pay. And why? Because for years they'd been secretly installing software in their cars to cheat on emissions tests. Now, this wasn't just one rogue engineer. This was a widespread deception that could only happen in a culture where people were either told to go along with it or were just too afraid to call out what was happening.
So Volkswagen was a story of environmental fraud. This next one is a story of environmental catastrophe. Just a few years earlier, a disaster began to unfold in the Gulf of Mexico, and its roots were planted in that very same soil, a culture of silence.
When the investigations were done, a really disturbing pattern emerged. As you can see, engineers and workers on the rig had raised red flags over and over again. They had doubts about the well's stability. They had major concerns about the main safety device, the blowout preventer. But the culture was all about speed and cutting costs, which meant their warnings just fell on deaf ears. And the final cost wasn't just in dollars or barrels of oil, though both were absolutely staggering. The ultimate cost was this: 11 workers lost their lives, and it caused the biggest marine oil spill in history. All preventable. Okay, for our last story, this one isn't about a single fiery explosion. It's about a slow-motion disaster, a grinding injustice that destroyed lives for over 2 decades in the UK. The post office rolled out this new computer system called Horizon. The problem? It was full of bugs, and it started inventing financial shortfalls at local post offices that didn't actually exist. Just look at that number. Over 700 local postmasters, these are pillars of their communities, were wrongly accused and prosecuted for theft. Many of them they desperately tried to report the computer errors they were seeing, but they were ignored, they were bullied, and they were disbelieved by an organization that refused to admit its shiny new technology could be wrong. Their silence wasn't a choice, it was forced on them. So, you're probably thinking, okay, spaceships, global corporations, oil rigs, what does any of this have to do with me? Well, here's the thing. The exact same dynamic, the same pressure to stay quiet, it plays out every single day in our offices, in our hospitals, even in our own families. Let's bring this right down to a moment we can all picture: a hospital. Imagine a nurse sees a doctor write down the wrong dose of a medicine. Right there, in that instant, it's a choice. Stay silent, and a patient's life is at risk. Speak up, and not only do you save that person from harm, but you actually make the entire team safer and stronger. The stakes couldn't be clearer. So what is it? What's the secret ingredient that allows that nurse to speak up? Well, it has a name. It's a concept called psychological safety. It's basically that shared feeling in a group that it's okay to take a risk, it's okay to ask a question, to admit a mistake, or to voice a concern, without the fear that you're going to be shot down or humiliated for it.
And this isn't just some feel-good theory. It's backed by hard data. Google spent years trying to figure out what made their best teams tick. They called it Project Aristotle. And what they found was absolutely stunning. The number one thing, the single most important factor that predicted a team's success, wasn't how smart the people were. It was psychological safety.
Okay, so we know the problem is silence, and we know the solution is psychological safety. So how do we actually do it? How do we build this stuff? Let's get into a practical toolkit with steps for both you as an individual and for any group or organization.
For us as individuals, it really starts with getting over that fear of speaking up. And you can do that strategically. First, prepare what you're going to say so you're clear, not emotional. Second, pick the right moment, maybe not in a big, tense meeting. Third, use I statements, like, I'm concerned that, instead of, you did this wrong. It's less accusatory. And finally, frame it as a solution, not just a complaint. Make it about working together.
And for organizations and leaders, it's all about building systems that make speaking up normal and safe. The airline industry figured this out decades ago. They created training that flattened the hierarchy in the cockpit so a junior co-pilot felt comfortable questioning a veteran captain. It means creating things like anonymous ways to report problems, training leaders to actually listen, and, this is a big one, publicly celebrating people who have the courage to raise a red flag.
Because really, the one single thread that runs through every story we've talked about is this: small problems don't fix themselves. They fester, they grow. And that one moment of awkwardness or discomfort you might feel speaking up right now is always, always better than a catastrophe down the road. So we'll leave you with this question. Just look around your world, your job, your community, your family. What's that one little thing you've noticed? That one small inefficiency, or that quiet concern that no one's talking about? The thing that could be so much better if only someone had the courage to speak up. What if today, that someone is you?